deliberations in the trial of Paul Manafort. The president's former campaign chairman faces 18 counts of tax evasion, bank fraud, hiding foreign bank accounts. This trial isn't the only legal problem facing Manafort, though. Next month, he will be tried for charges including witness tampering, money laundering, and conspiracy to defraud the U.S. And we are on verdict watch for Manafort and possible charges for President Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen.
Wendy Patrick joining us now for today's Inside the Law. Wendy, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, first things first, why haven't they reached a verdict yet in Manafort's trial?
Because of the weight and the volume of the evidence. They have seen almost 400 pieces of evidence. They've heard from 27 witnesses. This trial started 4 weeks ago. There's 18 counts. There's 12 jurors, each of which is bringing their own common sense and own thinking to the table. And they've all got to agree to be able to actually reach verdicts on any of these counts. So it's not surprising they've been out for 3 days. You know, this isn't one of those cases where it's a couple of witnesses who saw what. This is a paper case where it's document review by people that are probably not used to pouring through financial records. So I would have been surprised if they had come back early. It would definitely have been a not guilty verdict if they had come back, I think, within the first day.
How is Mueller seeing this, that it's taking a little bit? Is he sitting comfortably and confident that the jury's going to come back the way he wants? Or?
No doubt, because Mueller's savvy. He's been around the block. He's aware of the evidence. His prosecutors are aware of the evidence, and they're also aware of the type and the quality of evidence that they've got, and that it takes time to go through this. If the jurors rush this, they're likely to find Manafort not guilty, because that would be finding reasonable doubt. The fact that they're being methodical, strategic, careful, and considerate in going through those documents mean they're likely going to at least come to an agreement on some of the counts.
Let's talk about Michael Cohen. Prosecutors still not charging him yet?
Well, that's right. So Manafort's waiting to be convicted. Michael Cohen is waiting to be charged.
Yikes.
And here's really the talk on the street about Cohen right now. People are wondering, within the ambit of those close to the investigation, whether Cohen is cooperating. Why is that important? Maybe instead of being charged, he decides to provide testimony against the president. Maybe he's charged with less. Maybe he's charged and takes a sweetheart deal. Because remember, Manafort, he's facing a maximum of 305 years, 3 centuries in federal prison, whereas if he were to have cooperated, maybe it would have been less. But who's to say that either of those men have anything of value to offer to prosecutors? Prosecutors don't just offer deals unless somebody has some valuable evidence in return. Exactly right, Raul.
Okay, so these cases, how are they different from the usual types of crimes that we follow? Because like you said, this first case, it's all paper trails and paper this and receipts and money and this and that. How do they differ from other cases?
When is the last time we remember watching this closely a financial crimes case? I mean, bank fraud, wire fraud, numbers, foreign lobbying. This is not the usual kind of crime that grips the nation.
It's because of what's potentially behind it all.
That's right. It's not because of what these men did, but because of who they are and what their relationship is to the president and the Mueller probe.
And speaking of the president, do these cases, and I would assume the answer is yes, curious to see what you say, have an impact on the White House? And if so, how? And if not, why not?
Well, they don't directly impact the White House, which is why it's somewhat ironic that they've captivated the nation the way that they have. Remember, while Manafort was briefly the campaign manager for the Trump campaign, Michael Cohen had no connection to the Trump campaign. He had a connection to the president because he used to be his private lawyer. But these two men do not directly impact anything that's been going on in the White House. And so this guilty by association notion that people have been talking about really doesn't hold water when you look at what these men are facing or were charged with in the case of Manafort versus what's going on in the Oval Office. Very tenuous.
Everybody's riveted by this, though, because we're all waiting to see, and you may say, look, guilty by association, but in the court of public opinion, which you know carries a lot of weight in this country.
That's right. And
it is important, and it has value, does it not? Or?
Yes, here's why it's important, Raul. This is the first test, not the final exam, but the first test of Mueller's power in the courtroom. And that is why, remember that Michael Cohen, that's being handled by the Southern District of New York. That's not being handled by Mueller. Remember, he sort of outsourced that case. But the Manafort trial is the very first test of what special counsel's prosecutors are made of. For that reason, it's important. And for that reason, people are interested in knowing how good those prosecutors are, because people wonder who's going to be charged next.
People always, my mom used to say, you're going to be judged by the friends you keep.
That's right.
So that's probably
still
part of it
good
as well.
advice. That's still good advice. Don't be guilty by association.
Guilty by association and all that other good stuff. Wendy Patrick, thank you.
Always a pleasure.
My goodness. Appreciate that. Ohio Governor John